Well, I gotta tell you, this is probably one of the easiest reviews I've done on a smartphone. Now, what makes it easy is because I've had the A51 for longer. So there's only a few differences between the A71 and the A51. So I'll start with the obvious. It's a lot bigger, obviously. It's got a bigger battery. Well, I shouldn't say it's a lot bigger. It's just 6.7 versus 6.5. But I've seen some people, even though I had them side by side, some people still feel like the A71 is much bigger, but I'm telling you, in hand, you really can't feel the difference. But 6.7 versus 6.5, a 64 megapixel main shooter versus a 48 megapixel main shooter on the A51. And obviously it's got a bigger battery and a different processor. But ultimately, I just couldn't find enough about this phone that was that much different. And some people would say that it's not warranted to pay the extra $100 for this one opposed to the A51. And so what I say to that is the size of this phone is perfect. It's not a big phone. I know I have big hands, but it's not a big phone at all. It's actually a pretty small device considering it has a 6.7-inch display. I've got other phones with 6.7-inch displays and they have larger bezels, so they're much bigger footprint than this phone right here. But nonetheless, it is a big device, so take note of that. So if you are thinking that the A71 might be too big for you, you do have the A51. So the A71 has a nice, beautiful display on it. I mean, it is just gorgeous. There's nothing about the display that you will dislike, I would think, because it is Super AMOLED and it is edge to edge, pretty much bezel-less, full screen. The camera hole in the center is not very big at all. On camera, I don't think it looks big, but I will say this, it is bigger than the A51. The A51 has a little bit smaller camera hole in the center of the screen, and this one's just a hair bigger, but still smaller than some of the other versions on different smartphones from Samsung, like the Samsung S10 E. I think it's the smallest version of the S10e. I think it is. That version right there has a bigger pinhole camera than this. But all in all, the design of this phone is absolutely great. I think you'll enjoy the massive screen on here for media content. And as far as speaker volume goes, it's a very loud speaker. I've demoed the speaker in another video, so be sure to check that out. But I would tell you that the hardware on this phone is plastic. It has a plastic frame, and it just has a glass screen. And I don't think that should deter you on whether or not you want to pick up this phone or not, because I've said it before, if you drop a glass phone one time, you're looking at shattering the front or the back or both. If you drop this phone in the right corner or something like that, it probably won't break on the first drop because it's plastic. It's a plastic frame, it's a plastic back, and so you just won't get as many cracks and stuff. You'll get longer life out of a plastic phone. Somehow people feel like glass phones are premium, but it's just the opposite of that. I believe glass is super fragile and it's going to cost more to repair and things like that. So the A71 has fantastic battery life. You can easily pull down between 6.5 to 8.5 hours or more, depending on who you are. Now, I keep about 100 to 125 apps on my device, so I don't have a lot of apps on the phone. But some people have upwards of 300 and 400 apps, I've heard. And that is a lot of apps. I don't know what you're going to do with all those apps. Maybe it's just games and things like that, but it is what it is. My device runs really good for performance because it has a Snapdragon 730 inside. But I will say this, I didn't see that much of an improvement next to the A51. Like, a lot of people thought the A51 would just get stomped by the A71 because of the Snapdragon processor. I didn't see that. I saw, just when I compared them side by side, if you haven't checked out that video, if you haven't checked out that video, be sure to check it out, because I think that you'll be shocked at what you see. Not to say that the A71 is a sluggish phone or a bad phone, but when you put it next to that Exynos processor on the A51, you don't see it beating up on it very bad. It is a little bit faster, opens apps a little bit faster, but then you ask yourself, is it warranted to pay for this over the A51 if you were considering both of them? The $100 difference in between the two, and I'll get to price then. The $100, because this is a discussion that people seem to be having right now. The $100 difference in between the two, I think it's kind of worth it, because you do in fact get a Snapdragon processor. So that means with 4K recording, you don't have a limit for the 4K, but on the Exynos processor, on the front and rear 4K, you get a 10-minute limit. So if that's important to you, keep that in mind. The Snapdragon processor on here has no limits for the 4K recording. You can go on and on and on. I didn't have any heating issues with the device or anything like that. It was just a solid camera. I don't think anything about that. And so speaking of cameras, I've actually compared this next to the A51, and I'm referencing the A51 because this review is almost based around, this is like the bigger brother to the A51. So I put these cameras against the A51, and these cameras, even though it has the same front camera, and the only difference is one of the rear cameras, the cameras on this are a lot better. I don't know why. They're way more accurate. They produce the colors very well. It's not too saturated. Even with HDR on and off, this phone still had better cameras than the A51. I find that shocking. The front camera was night and day. I mean, it's unreal how different the front cameras are on this device. I'm blown away. But the cameras on the A71 are better than the A51 in my personal opinion, and that's another reason why I think within that $100 window, that $80 to $100 window, this is a better purchase over the A51, because you don't just get a bigger screen, a bigger battery, better battery, you get better cameras for real. Now they both have Dolby Atmos, and this phone has Dolby Atmos, so when you plug in the headphone, some people have asked about this, it sounds fantastic, just like the A51. So you're getting stellar sound when you plug in. The headphones that come with the Samsung device, they're great. They work perfectly fine with this. I've actually used some high-power Sonys with the Dolby Atmos plugging in here, and it is absolutely great. I mean, plugging in with this phone is great. While that single bottom firing speaker isn't the best, it is very loud. And it's loud enough to where you can hear it in the same setting. It's right in par with most cell phones that have a single bottom firing speaker, but maybe it's a little bit louder. So there is some perks to that. This phone comes with Android 10 and One UI 2, just like the A51, and it's speedy, it's fast. There's nothing bad I have to say about it. You get pretty much all the functionality of the high-end Samsung devices, but you pay $400. Reviewing the A71 was pretty much easy. I didn't think it would be this easy coming out of the gate, but there's not a lot to it. I mean, having both phones here, I just referenced the A51 and how much better I think this is. This has a bigger screen, a bigger battery, better cameras, and everything else pretty much falls right in line. It's got better battery too. So you choose, man. Either you want the big one or the small one. And I don't think that the A51 is small by any means when you consider that it has a 6.5 inch display and this has a 6.7. Even when you see them side by side, it's hard for me to believe that people think that the A51 is that much smaller than the A71. I don't get that, but hey, I guess this phone is good. It's really good, and I think it's worth the upgrade from the A70, because some people have asked that. Jay, is it worth the upgrade from the A70? I just bought the A70. I would tell you, I said this before, sell your A70, give it to a family member, and grab the A71. You will not be disappointed. I kid you not. I mean, I lied to you not. You will not be disappointed with what you get from the A71. The cameras are better. The battery should be slightly better. You do get a better processor, if you will, if you like looking at stuff like that. And it's going to be really nice. You get the new design. There's a whole bunch of reasons that I think the A71 is, in fact, a nice upgrade from the A70. But that's personal preference, and that's ultimately what it comes down to, personal preference. Well, it's your man Jay. I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.